Greetings everyone, I'm Terry Lewin, a community representative from the Hunter Region, and today I'll be providing a brief update about the Richmond Vale Rail Trail, RVRT, predominantly from a supporters group perspective. Firstly, the RVRT supporters group would like to congratulate everyone who has contributed to the establishment of the Northern Rivers Rail Trail. We hope to learn from your efforts, experiences and successes as we move the RVRT forward. Some background and basics. The original Hexham-Minmi rail line had its origins in the mid-1850s. Construction of the Richmond Vale Railway was completed in 1905, a private coal line servicing several collieries. The section of the RVRT from Hexham to Kurri Kurri will largely follow the alignment of the former Richmond Vale Railway, which closed in 1987. Disused water pipeline corridors will be used from Shortland to Tarro and for the Fletcher connection. The RVRT will comprise a relatively flat off-road shared pathway from Shortland to Kurri Kurri, nominally 32 kilometres in length, but actually around 40 kilometres with connections. Using long-standing cleared railway alignments and pipeline corridors requires minimal land acquisition or earthworks and has fewer environmental impacts. The RVRT will be 3 to 4 metres wide and include new bridges at Ironbark, Fishery, Surveyors and Wallace Creeks, together with a wetlands boardwalk. It's useful to view the RVRT as having western and eastern sections. The western section within Cessnock and Macquarie LGAs runs through the Sugarloaf Range and largely rural areas. The eastern section within Newcastle LGA traverses coastal wetlands and triggers different planning legislation. Here's a quick run through of some of the points of interest within the western section of the trail from west to east. The western trailhead is at the Log of Knowledge Park in Kurri Kurri, from where you will be able to access and explore the Kurri Kurri CBD, its murals and other attractions, and potentially visit facilities such as the Richmond Vale Railway Museum. The western RVRT section runs through or near the Werrikata, Sugarloaf and Stockington State Conservation areas. There are also 3 historic brick tunnels in the Sugarloaf Range section. Several underground coal mines were located in and around Stockington, with substantial mining and rail infrastructure, almost all of which has been long removed. Although some remnants still remain, such as these explosives bunkers. Other destination development opportunities are also likely to arise as new transition points develop, such as the proposed mid-trail precinct within Stockington State Conservation Area. The beautiful Pamelog Nature Reserve straddles the LGA boundary, but is predominantly within the eastern RVRT section. Indeed, most of the eastern RVRT section traverses land with high conservation values, including regional and national parks and reserves. Additionally, the Tarro to Shortland section will enhance the region's active transport options, providing a safer alternative to the New England Highway and Maitland Road. Blue Gum Hills Regional Park and facilities will be accessible from the Minmi RVRT connection. The wetlands sections between Minmi Junction and Hexham will also become accessible in ways that they never have before. At Tarro, the approved plans for the M1 extension to Raymond Terrace will provide good opportunities for cyclists to connect with the RVRT, whilst also protecting the trail and future links to Maitland. The adopted Lower Hunter Freight Corridor route also largely avoids the RVRT and coastal wetlands. The eastern trailhead is near the popular Hunter Wetlands Centre in Shortland. The eastern RVRT section will also provide future connections to the Newcastle Cycle Safe network. In this image, the RVRT can be seen at the top of the picture. Planning and approvals. The obvious merits of the trail have been discussed by local community members and groups for over 30 years. After a few false starts, RVRT planning activities have been consolidated during the last decade, including, for example, a comprehensive feasibility study in 2014 by Mark Halliburton Associates, followed by commencement of work on the current proposal, with the initial community information sessions held in November 2016. GHD Proprietary Limited Newcastle have been engaged as the primary design consultants. In 2017, the Tom Farrell Institute for the Environment and the Donaldson Conservation Trust collaborated in hosting an active transport conference and associated book launch devoted to the rail trail. In August 2020, the numerous assessments associated primarily with the eastern RVRT section were publicly exhibited. This required a full development application and environmental impact assessment and totalled over 2,000 pages of documentation. While the Australian Walking and Cycling Conference was also coordinated from Newcastle in October 2020 by Sam Reich and his team. Newcastle, Cessnock and Lake Macquarie councils are the key collaborators on this project, with some additional funding support from the National Parks and Wildlife Service and the Donaldson Conservation Trust. There's also been very strong community support. To date, the councils have focused largely on securing the various basic planning approvals. The RVRT has been consistently identified as a priority in the Hunter Regional Plan, both in 2036, in the 2036 Plan and the 2041 Plan, and also in the Greater Newcastle Metropolitan Plan, the 2036 Plan, with an emphasis in this plan on enhancing environmental amenity and resilience, which is outcome 2, and improving connections to jobs, services and recreation, outcome 4. The RVRT is also identified in an array of other local priorities and plans, including cycling and destination management strategies. Solid progress has been made during the last 2 years. In December 2021, the Regional Planning Panel approved 4 legs of the trail in Newcastle, totalling approximately 13 kilometres. The short section crossing Hunter Wetlands National Park requires a separate approval. The review of environmental factors, or REF, for this section should be approved during the next few months. The review of environmental factors for the western section of the trail was exhibited in May-July 2022. It's anticipated that this will be approved by Cessnock City Council during the next month, and shortly thereafter by Lake Macquarie City Council for the 2.7 kilometre section that falls within that LGA. Another REF will be needed for the Tarro connection. Improving local connectivity is also key to the RVRT's long-term success. Moderately sized grants from the Get New South Wales Active program have been obtained for more localised sections. It's actually anticipated that a mix of larger staged state federal funding grants will be needed to fully fund the RVRT. Anticipated benefits. In evaluating trail proposals, it's also critical to consider potential benefits for all user groups, not just cyclists, including active regular commuters, recreational cyclists, walkers, runners, bird watchers, families, social and supporting groups, individuals and families with mobility constraints, and tourist groups. So quite a potentially broad group of users. As you know, there is solid national and international evidence that rail trails work. it's useful to start with some of the common benefits that the RVRT shares with other quality trails, such as the new Northern Rivers Rail Trail. Some common RVRT benefits that it shares with other quality trails: connects communities and improves livability, enhances recreational choices, promotes healthier, active lifestyles, encourages broad usage and safe usage for that matter, showcases local environmental and cultural heritage features, promotes public appreciation and enjoyment, encourages tourism growth, including cycle and trail tourism, facilitates regional economic development, provides a platform for new businesses and initiatives, and importantly, revitalises a community asset. I hesitate to call them unique, but some of the unique benefits that the RVRT brings, and I'll illustrate some of these with reference to the RVRT book that was produced in 2017. One of the first advantages is landscape diversity, in that the RVRT moves from coastal wetlands through nature reserves, tunnels in forested semi-mountainous areas, and onto rural locations and regional towns. It will effectively become a conservation conduit to previously inaccessible areas, as it passes through or near several high conservation value areas. By using a blend of disused rail and pipeline corridors, the RVRT also uniquely links metropolitan and rural areas and promote greater awareness of our multi-layered heritage, ultimately linking the city, beach and lake with the vineyards. It's also likely to become the centrepiece in future networks. Here, for example, is a figure from the Cessnock Trail Strategy, which shows the fantastic benefits that will come from linkages to all the potential trails in Cessnock. The current RVRT proposal is also demonstrably cost-effective, with a benefit to cost ratio of 2.4. We also need to capitalise on the preceding decades of public spending, during which tens of millions of dollars have actually been spent on the RVRT. For example, making provision for the RVRT, that is, protecting the corridor for future use. And some examples include the tunnels that were built under Lenningans Drive and the M1 during its construction. Pamelong Nature Reserve itself was a result of the F3 construction at the time. When it comes to the Hunter Expressway, that required a construction of the Hunter Expressway, which is the big picture in the left-hand side here of the freeway being constructed. It required monitoring of the historic brick tunnels, laser monitoring of those tunnels. And again, in the recent planning for the M1 extension, a lot of thought was put into protecting the corridor, the RVRT corridor. So it would be extremely wasteful if we do not actually construct the RVRT after all these decades of public spending. The Hunter Cycle Trail. The broader Shiraz to Shore Hunter Cycle Trail proposal, from wine country to the lake and ocean, is a relatively recent initiative of the Hunter Joint Organisation of Councils, or Hunter JO, and includes the RVRT as one of its essential sections. So, for example, in this picture, you'll see that they've identified Section 1 as the Shiraz section, Section 2 as the region from Cessnock to Kurri Kurri, then Section 3 is the RVRT, and Section 4 is in fact the broad array of trails that already largely exist. So in combination, you'll end up with something that goes all the way from Pecolbin to the beach and the lake. Importantly, there are already several high-quality shared pathways within Newcastle and Lake Macquarie LGAs, including, for example, the Fernley and Tramway tracks and the Bathers Way. One of the Hunter JO's goals is to promote an image of the Hunter region as an active transport and cycle tourism destination. Consequently, their Stage 1 focuses on developing a Hunter cycle tourism strategy, for which they received some funding recently. Many future Hunter cycle trail extensions and connections are also possible. We strongly believe that the RVRT should be prioritised in any construction staging plans, given its strategic relevance, long planning history, and ability to immediately add to the existing shore or eastern end of this regional pathway, effectively doubling existing cycling trips that are possible. Opportunities and challenges. It may be somewhat of a cliched expression, but in reality, all of the opportunities have their challenges, and all of the challenges present opportunities. Notably, with growing opportunities in New South Wales to develop rail trails, there's also increasing competition for the required design and construction funds. So the RVRT is suddenly up against a whole lot of new potential trails. Another challenge or frustration, if you like, is that everyone more or less assumes that the RVRT will actually happen, and they've largely moved on in planning other links or infrastructure projects. So we're keen to ensure that the RVRT actually is completed. From the point of view of opportunities, here's a quick list of them. Finalising development plans and approvals, and obviously resolving any issues. Establishing a representative regional advisory committee, not just to get the trail built, but to make sure that we maximise its benefits. We also need to ensure that we get a quality integrated development, and obviously we need to secure state and federal funding. One of the things that I want to emphasise is the need for a dual focus, to simultaneously consider the multi-layered benefits, that is local, regional and state national level benefits, arising from the whole of the trail, and also simultaneously the localised benefits for communities, groups and individuals. Up until now, there's been a bit of a tendency to compartmentalise or fragment everything, with people tending to focus on their particular patch or their particular LGA, whereas it's important to actually look at the big picture as well as the localised picture. Some of the other opportunities or challenges relate to maintaining ongoing communications with a whole broad range of stakeholders. As I said, optimising the trail's benefits, enhancing user experiences in a broad range of ways, and also the opportunities and challenges that come with all of the other future connections to the RVRT. And although I've included a long quote here, it's just really to remind me to say that, as we pointed out in our February 2023 newsletter, actually deciding to go ahead with the RVRT is a no-brainer and an extremely positive use for public funds, especially during periods of economic uncertainty and following events such as the COVID pandemic and other natural disasters. So I'd just like to finish by thanking everybody who has contributed to the RVRT up to this point. Thank Rail Trails Australia and Northern Rivers Rail Trail Inc. for putting on today. And I really want to finish with the obvious statement. It really is time to make the RVRT a reality. Thanks for listening.